Welcome to the Crunch McDabbles Show. I'm your host, Crunch McDabbles. This is the only show where we take a deep dive into your favorite Pathfinder 2nd Edition abilities and feats and builds and everything to make sure you are fully prepared to do battle with evil monsters in an imaginary world, because let's face it, Galarian is a dangerous place. Today's show, Power Attack. Power Attack. Sweet Power Attack. How good art thou, Power Attack? At one time you were so good you were considered a feat tax. That's a compliment and an insult all at the same time. Does every melee build out there still need you just like they did in 1st edition? What has become of you, Sweet Power Attack? Well, here's what it says it does. You unleash a particularly powerful attack that clobbers your foes but leaves you a bit unsteady. Make a melee strike. This counts as 2 attacks when considering your multiple attack penalty. If this strike hits, you deal an extra die of weapon damage. At 10th level and 18th level, the number of damage dice increases, so this feat scales as you level. Now, there was a little bit of controversy on the forums about how this feat works, whether you take the multiple attack penalty on the power attack itself or not. You don't. The key to this is in the wording of the description. You make a powerful attack, but this attack leaves you unsteady, i.e. the power attack is fine, but the next attack is screwed up. This is further cleared up by the power attack addendum feat at 6th level, Furious Focus, where you learn to control this unsteadiness. Having power attack only counts as 1 attack and not 2. They could have cleared up the confusion on this by changing the order of the sentences in the description, by putting the part about the multiple attack penalty after the part about the extra damage. It is a little more clear and doesn't change the meaning. You deal the damage and then you take the penalty. So what does this mean? Basically, you have to use 2 actions to make 1 attack. That's bad. 2 actions to make 1 attack? Not good. Why would I do that? Why not just make 2 attacks? Because if you hit, you add an extra die of damage. So more damage, that's good. The power attack is made at your current multiple attack penalty and adds more damage instead of making a 2nd attack at -5. The multiple attack penalty adds harsh diminishing returns. Those penalties are rough, so getting more damage out of an attack without a penalty might be better than 2 attacks. So how does the damage stack up for this feat? Is this feat any good? If only we had a line graph to illustrate. Oh wait, we do. So let's take a deep dive into each weapon and compare average damage with and without power attack. Let's start with the dagger. We'll start small. If a 1st level fighter with an 18 strength makes an attack with the dagger against an armor class of 18, on the first attack without power attack, they will deal on average 4.6 damage. That's not much, but it's just a dagger. If I make 2 attacks, the 2nd attack at -4, because the attack is made with an agile weapon, it adds another 3 average damage to a total of 7.6 damage on those 2 attacks. And if I make a 3rd attack, this time at -8, see, these are those diminishing returns we were talking about, I add in just another 1.6 average damage for a total of 9.1 average damage for a full round of attacks. That's particularly good damage for a dagger. That would down a kobold warrior, no problem. Now, if I take the feat power attack and I use it with the same dagger, if I make just 1 attack, I do the same amount of damage because I can't use power attack, so it makes no difference. So we have the same starting point. If I make 2 attacks in the round and I use power attack, my average damage is 6.3, adding in that extra die of damage from power attack. However, if I had just made 2 attacks with the dagger, I would have done 7.6 damage. So wait, that's not as good. It's actually less damage. If I make a power attack and then a 3rd attack action at -8, I add in that tiny bit of damage from the 3rd attack, my damage increases to 7.9. But that is still less than if I had just made 3 attacks without power attack. But power attack has this little trick, if you remember. I can make a single attack first without a multiple attack penalty and then make the power attack with my 2nd multiple attack penalty. If I do this with the dagger, we'll call this special. Special as in I'm manipulating when I make the power attack. My damage will actually increase a little bit up to 8.7. It's still less than if I had just made 3 attacks without power attack, but it's a little better. So for a dagger wielding fighter, whoever that is, power attack isn't going to help you. How about for a short sword? What about that? Let's break down the numbers. First attack without power attack will be 5.3 average damage. 2 attacks will be 8.7, and 3 attacks will be 10.6. That's all just normal, no power attack, and since there is no way to manipulate the attacks to get more damage for the special category, we just move the line graph straight across for demonstration purposes. It remains at 10.6. Now with power attack with the short sword, the first attack is the same, no way to use power attack. With 2 attacks, the damage is 7.7, and with 3 attacks, it's 9.6. Finally, making the power attack in the special way with the second attack as the power attack instead of the first, the damage is 10.3, a little better. But it's still not as good as just making 3 attacks without power attack. So power attack with the short sword, still no good. How about for a long sword? Surely it's worth it. Let's take a look. Without power attack, the first attack is 6 average damage. 2 attacks would be 9.4 average damage, and 3 attacks would be 10.7 average damage. Really interesting to note here. Let's take a side detour, a little digression. This is a teachable moment. Let's put the short sword back up and compare it to the long sword. You can see that one attack with the short sword does less damage, but as you make more attacks in the round, because of the agile feature and taking less of a multiple attack penalty, the damage with the short sword on 3 attacks is more or less the same as a long sword with 3 attacks. So cool, fun fact there. But back to power attack with the long sword. So if I use a long sword and I power attack, the first attack does the same amount of damage, 6, because I can't use it. 2 attacks does 9.1, still less, and 3 attacks does 10.4, still less. But 3 attacks using a regular attack followed by the power attack does 11.2 average damage. So here it is, the first occasion that using power attack actually gave us more damage. So congratulations to the longsword. Making a full round of attack actions and using power attack as the second attack action, and finally this feat has paid off a little. Is it worth it at this point? Probably not worth an entire feat. It's a small difference in damage and it's only on 3 attacks, but there you go. But maybe my dire flail or some other D10 weapon will be worthwhile. How does a D10 weapon stack up? Maybe using like a bastard sword, 2-handed. On 1 hit, without power attack, the average is 6.7 damage. 2 attacks is 10.5, and 11.9 average damage for 3 attacks. And there's no way to special manipulate the attacks without power attack, so the damage is the same in our special category. Now let's turn on power attack. For 1 attack, it's the same. It doesn't matter because you can't use power attack. For 2 attacks, it's 10.5. It's actually exactly the same. The line is right over the other line. And for 3 attacks, it's 11.9, exactly the same again, right under the line again. For 3 attacks made in that special way, first attack normal, followed by the power attack, it's 12.7. Now that, finally, is a pretty decent damage boost. So the conclusion with the D10 Dire Flail, or other D10 weapon, you aren't taking any loss of damage for using it, and in a full round 3 attack action, you're getting a decent damage boost. So again, is it worth it? Is there a better feat I would take? If there isn't, a damage per round boost is always a good thing, especially for the benefit of bypassing damage reduction when you do hit. So you can see as the weapon damage die increases, the usefulness of power attack is increasing. Let's move up to the greatsword and we'll see what happens. The first attack with the greatsword just on its own, without power attack, is 7.7 damage. 2 attacks with the greatsword is 12.1 damage, and 3 attacks is 13.8 total damage for the round. That's nice damage. But if I power attack with the greatsword, let's look at that. 1 attack is always the same. 2 attacks, it does 12.6. See, it's already doing more damage, and a significant amount, not a huge amount, 0.5 more damage per attack. That's something when you're talking about averages. 0.5 is pretty good. 1 is, significant. 2 is off the charts. It's something that you must have. That's a great boost. So 0.5 isn't nothing. It's pretty good. On 3 attacks with the power attack, it does 14.9 again, 0.5 better than without power attack, so a good increase with no downside. but on 3 attacks in the special way, making the first attack as normal and then making the second attack as a power attack, the average damage goes up to 14.9 per round, almost 15 damage per round. That is 1.1 better and extremely significant. So 3 attacks, a full round of attacks with the power attack as the second attack is on average enough to kill an Orc Brute outright in 1 round. So goodbye Orc Brute. The fighter with the great sword will cleave you down. So what did we learn here? The bigger the weapon die, the more benefit from power attack. Really what we learned is power attack is really only a great feat for two-handed fighting builds using a 1d12 weapon, and if you're planning on making 2 or 3 attacks each round. If this is the case, then power attack is the feat for you. Otherwise, you might want to shop elsewhere for your feat shopping needs. Looking forward in your power attack build, Furious Focus, a level 6 fighter feat, is a must-take feat. It only helps when you make 3 attacks in a round, but the damage boost is significant. With the Great Sword, using power attack with Furious Focus, it starts at the same. It starts at 7.7. On 2 attacks with power attack, it's the same. It's 12.6. But then when you add in that third attack at only -5, you get a 17 average damage for the round. That's pretty nice damage. Interestingly, if you make your power attack second, the second attack in the round in that special way we did before, you're pretty much giving up the benefit of Furious Focus, taking the -5 on your power attack anyways. So your damage goes back to the same as when you didn't have Furious Focus. No penalty on the first normal attack and -5 on the power attack. So once you take Furious Focus at level 6, always make sure you power attack first. Also, we have to consider how different buffs affect power attack. A simple bonus to hit bonus like a Bless spell or a magic +1 weapon doesn't affect power attack. Here we see a great sword at normal damage. If we add in Bless, the damage increases, and if we add in Bless with the power attack, the damage still increases proportionately. So increases to hit and power attack work great together. However, increases to damage decreases the effectiveness of power attack. So a spell like Enlarge, which will add a +2 to damage for each hit, has the following effect. A normal greatsword attack looks like this. If we add in Enlarge, the damage increases, as you would expect. But if we then power attack when we are enlarged, the actual damage average decreases because we would get more damage out of just making 3 attacks. So there is this inverse relationship between added damage and the effectiveness of power attack. More weapon damage, the less effective power attack is, and the more beneficial it is not to use it, to just make 3 attacks. We see this with the striking weapon or someone casting magic weapon on you. These things add an extra damage die, so you're getting more damage per hit. The damage with power attack actually goes down. So the moral of this story, be aware of your particular situation, what weapon you have, what buffs you have, what buffs you are likely to get, and make the decision on whether power attack is the right feat for you. That's it. This is the Crunch McDabbles Show. I've been your host, Crunch McDabbles, the erudite number cruncher. Please don't forget to add in your +1 for Bless and make sure your builds are as good as they can be, because it's your responsibility to turn back the tides of darkness. So do it.